Salim.
He'd searched for 3 months before he'd finally found the fox. He would have never guessed the master thief was this woman who looked more like a rich man's mistress than the most successful thief in the world. She was stunning, true, but it was her eyes that knocked a man on his heels. They were a clear, icy blue, the irises rimmed in black, imperceptibly slanted at the corners. And she was looking at him straight on, amused at his surprise, waiting for him to speak. He realized in that moment the fact that she was a woman served his purposes very well indeed. Yes, this was perfect. The skill set the fox provided was unparalleled, legendary even. The best, he'd heard it from his father and several trusted men of his acquaintance. He wondered dispassionately if in addition to stealing, she was any good in bed. After they finished their business, would she want to go upstairs to his suite? He supposed he wouldn't mind. But first things first. He watched the waiter fill her flute with champagne. She raised the flute, tipped it toward him for a moment. No smile, only a rather bored assessment in her clear blue eyes. It shocked him. She found him boring. He watched her drink the champagne straight down, never taking her eyes off him, fully aware he was watching her every move. She slowly licked her lips. A signal? He still said nothing, merely signaled to the waiter to pour her another. She drank again, still silent. He knew all the men in the bar were looking at them, wondering what she was to him. How their expressions would change if he announced to the bar who and what she was. He sipped his Macallan, felt the smooth fire of the 64-year-old whiskey slide down his throat. When he'd finally found the fox, they'd corresponded through a coded email account utilizing a simple and elegant system of protection. They both had passwords to the account. Salim would write an email and save it as a draft, and the fox would log in, read the mail in the draft's folder, delete it, then write a response and save it to drafts. They'd been writing for weeks now, the messages short, direct. They'd scheduled this, their first and only meeting, last week, and the account had been dormant since. He'd believed he knew women, knew how they thought, knew how they negotiated to get what they wanted, but never had he gotten the slightest hint the fox was a woman. Amazing. He set his glass on the table. "Are you really the person I seek?" She only nodded again, that slight smile playing around her mouth. She never looked away from him. Salim said slowly, "Very well. Let us begin." She slid a piece of paper across the table. Her hands were slim and elegant, nails short and polished the palest pink. Her forearm slid briefly from the edge of her sleeve with a graceful whisper of fabric, and her delicate wrist turned slightly. He saw generations of her ancestors in the sleek, unconscious movement, like a geisha serving him tea before she robbed him blind and slipped a knife between his ribs. He opened the slip of paper and kept his face still, not reacting to the number she'd written. Never in their emails had they discussed her price. He looked up to see her watching him, her eyes so blue he would swear that if he looked long enough, he would see the azure skies of his homeland. Except he realized in that moment her eyes were blank and empty and devoid of anything but shrewd amusement. A chill moved down his spine. He'd never felt this sort of fear before in his life, of anyone, particularly a woman. He hated it, yet it was there deep inside him, this knowledge of her, and with it was a corrosive fear. Her voice was deep and soft, and he leaned forward automatically when she spoke, though he could hear her clearly above the conversations in the bar.
You are surprised.
Yes.
That is nothing for something so priceless.
She snapped her fingers and looked away, but not before he saw the indifference